until 2024, we're going to print about $210 billion. I don't know if that's right or not, but there is going to
Sounds
be
about right.
printing happening. Will inflation take place? And if so, do you think it'll be bad just a little bit? What do you see happening there?
Yeah, there's a few interesting points there. I mean, the first one is that at the moment our QE program is somewhat limited by our slightly better economic prospects. So that is we've already seen the Reserve Bank reduce the amount of money that it's printing each week, sort of thing, which is reassuring on one hand, because if we don't need to print all that much, because we don't need to finance that much government debt, then that's sort of a positive, because we haven't had to draw down on so much in the first place. At the same time, it reduces just how much that QE program can support the market, just because it's smaller than we thought. So I think we will continue to see that going. We might see the Reserve Bank say extend it out for another year and say that, look, we can buy this stuff for a longer period. But I think we're also going to get into the place where we possibly buy different things. I mean, people have talked about sort of some of the foreign options that the bank could buy. I think they'll continue sticking with like what they've called their funding for lending program, which is where they just lend out on the cheap themselves. But going and this is the crux of the matter, it does depend, like you say, on that inflation question. Now we've had inflation running below the midpoint for an extended amount of time. So on one hand, I think we could run it slightly hotter. So the 2% mid band, I think we could go up to 3% for a period, just to sort of overshoot and make sure that we get ourselves back there. That's one hand. The other hand is that some Kiwis are still doing it tough. And so do you want to put cost pressures on people at a time when things are not all that good? So that's going to be a balancing act in terms of making sure we do get inflation going, but also that we don't sort of cripple the recovery and the economy. The other one is that you do wonder how inflation is going to track over the next few years, only because you've got some massive supply chain disruptions across the economy at the moment. I mean, I see another 2,000 containers, I think it is, are being unloaded in Northport because Auckland ports are still pretty chocker. And you're seeing that there's quite a lot of shelves. I mean, everyone I expect on the podcast probably would have seen over Christmas, it was pretty hard to get some products just because they're not available. And what we're seeing through there is that we could actually have inflation that holds up better than we might have expected, only because, if a shop was normally going to offer a bread maker with a bit of a discount, but they've only got 5 more units in stock, well, they don't need a discount, they'll sell them anyway, just because of that sort of supply crunch. So I expect we could see, maybe the next 6 months, a period of higher inflation than we might have expected, still lower than normal, but higher than expected just because of those supply chain disruptions. But as we move forward, I would expect to see inflation start to get moving, just because the economy is expanding, and we've put more money into the market, and so there are going to be those pressures coming through. I don't think they're sort of going to be huge. I can't imagine any massive spike in inflation, just because there is still a fair bit of spare capacity in the economy, and so that will keep things from sort of roaring away. But you hope that that inflation does edge up just a touch, because it will signal that the economy is sort of moving at the right pace.
Fantastic. And that just comes to more money chasing fewer goods, in some sense, that there's supply demand. We haven't produced as much stuff, and then we've pumped more money in, so it's just going to unbalance it just slightly.
Yeah, and the price of some goods will go up, when there's so much more money in the market. People go, well, all right, I can command a higher price,
Definitely.
we may as well do it.
No, that's fantastic.